Welcome back, Hononegah Geometry, Chapter 2. So we're starting a new chapter, and this chapter has a lot of terminology, and we're going to start getting into the beginnings of proofs, which will come later in the chapter, but here we go. Little algebra review today. To start off with here, looking at factoring. Take the first term, two items that multiply together to be the first term, and then two items that multiply together to be the last term, and remember your inner and your outer need to add up to your middle. Now it's not asking me to solve, so I'm done. It's just asking me to factor. The next one, and this is something we'll be talking about throughout this section, is a counterexample. It's an example that proves a statement to be false. If you live in Springfield, you live in Illinois. Now, with that being said, are there other Springfields? Is there a Springfield, Missouri, or another Springfield besides one in Illinois? And the answer to that is yes, there is other Springfields throughout the country. So that would be your counterexample. So it's an example that makes something false. Conditional statements. Today we're going to start talking about basically if-then statements. A conditional statement is a logical statement that has two parts. The hypothesis, known as P, and a conclusion, known as Q. When a conditional statement is written in if-then form, the if part is the hypothesis, and the Q part is then the conclusion. The symbol, and you want to really write this down, P, then Q. Anytime we're doing a conditional statement, it's P, then Q. So the if part of the statement will be the hypothesis, and the Q part of the statement will be the conclusion. So here we go. Identify the hypothesis P and the conclusion Q. And I'm going to use a different color here. So here we go. If tomorrow is Friday, that right there is your hypothesis. That's your H. This snapper will wear jeans to school. This portion right here is your conclusion then. So the if part is the hypothesis, the Q part is the conclusion. You are a sophomore if you graduate in 2026. Now, the issue with this is really not an if-then form. So it should be if you are a sophomore, then you will graduate in 2026, making the you are a sophomore as the hypothesis and the you will graduate in 2026, the conclusion. Rewrite the condition in if-then form. All birds have feathers. Well, so if you are a bird, then, and I apologize for my handwriting, you have feathers. The if part, you are a bird, is your P, or your hypothesis. The Q, or the condition, or the conclusion, I'm sorry, is you have feathers. If you are in Texas, you are in Texas if you are in Houston. Now, to make this true, I'm going to put if you are in Houston, and that is assuming that there's only one Houston, then you are in Texas. The hypothesis is you are in Houston. The conclusion, you are in Texas. Try these on your own. So hit pause. All right, let's see if you got them right now. If it is a 30-degree angle, then it is acute. Next one, an angle is a right if it measures 90 degrees. So if an angle is a right angle, and I'm going to abbreviate there, then it is 90 degrees. Negation. Negation merely means not. The symbol for negation is a little squiggly P. So the opposite. So basically stating, if I say something, you would say the exact opposite. That is a negation. So the ball is red. The negation, the ball is not red. So you are literally going not to whatever is said to begin with. And so the next one, the cat is not black. The negation would be the cat is black. This is a very large slide, and I'm going to have to scroll down. And this one is the basis, really, of everything that we're going to do today. Related conditions. So if you have a conditional statement, that is the original statement, the if-then, P then Q. The converse takes the P and the Q and reverses it. So if Q, then P. This is the converse. You take the conditional statement and flip the hypothesis and the conclusion. The inverse. Now we're going to get into negations here. The inverse is not P, then not Q. So you take your original statement and then go not for the hypothesis and not for the conclusion. And then the contrapositive. The contrapositive is not for the conclusion and not for the hypothesis. A conditional statement and its contrapositive are either both true or both false. Similarly, the converse and an inverse. So basically what you're saying is if you have a conditional statement that's true, the contrapositive will be true. If you have a conditional statement that's false, your contrapositive will also be false. Now, let's talk about it the other way. If you have a inverse or a converse that is true, your inverse will be true. So those are called equivalent statements. The two are both true or both false. Now we're going to get into a bunch of writing here. So the conditional statement, if you are a guitar player, if you are a guitar player, then you are a musician. That's true. If I can play the guitar, I would be classified as a musician. I would put true there. The converse. Now you're going to take the hypothesis and the conclusion and switch places. So if you are a musician, then you are a guitar player. That's not necessarily true, right? I could be a musician. I can play the piano. I can play drums. I can play the clarinet. I can play another instrument. So that is false and still be a musician. Whoops. Sorry. And I'll scroll down. Inverse now. I'm going to take the original question, the original P and Q, and do a not. So if you are not a guitar player, then you are not a musician. Again, that is false. Okay, I could not be a guitar player, but still be a musician. Last one, not Q, not P. So if you are not a musician, you're not a musician, then you are not a guitar player. And that's true. If I'm not a musician at all, then I don't play the guitar. So notice, the conditional statement and the contrapositive are both true, while the converse and the inverse are both false. Now, there's a last one that I do not have here, so ultimately you can work on that. And that is it for today. So this is section 2.1, day 1. If you please make sure you get your homework assignment from your teacher, and good luck.